And welcome to another video. My name is Kenna and I am so excited to have you here. Today we are going to be working on some repotting and some potting up of some of my most recent propagations. If you saw my last video, my houseplant tour, I did mention that there were a few things that really were in need of potting up. Either the roots, have really established and they're ready to go in soil, or this one needs an up pot because it is unfortunately a little bit too thirsty for the pot size that it has right now, and I'm having some trouble keeping up watering it. So we're going to be repotting today, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so I think I'm going to start with my Cissus Discolor. I really like this plant. It's quite cute, and it has a lot of really nice color, which I really enjoy. And one day will be a really nice big vining plant. At least that is my goal. But right now it is unfortunately a little bit too thirsty for the pot that it is in. It was really cute while it was in there, but I've actually lost some leaves recently and I'm wanting to make sure that doesn't keep happening. So we're gonna go ahead and up pot it today. Just gonna get some of this soil out of here. I'm trying my best not to break any of the roots here or break off any of the root system because it did have, a somewhat established root system when I got it, but I'm hoping for a little bit more roots now, which I don't think I'm gonna get my wish on that actually. But this was a little concrete pot, which is really cute when it hangs in my window, but unfortunately, concrete is going to wick up a lot of that moisture pretty quick for those plants. So I do have about the same root system that I potted it up with, which again, I'm a little bit disappointed about, but honestly that might also be my fault for not keeping up with the watering as much as this plant would have liked. So I am gonna go ahead and pot it into this little pot here. It is maybe an inch size bigger than the pot that it was in. And I'm actually just gonna be reusing the soil as well, because the soil was perfectly fine. I just potted it up not too long ago. So it will be just fine to pot it back up in. I do also have my little pot of soil here. Don't judge me too harshly. I usually do this kind of work outside, so it doesn't really matter if, everything is super clean and nice looking. But this pot is a little bit dirty. It's seen some better days, but it definitely works for just mixing up my soil in there. All right, so that is plant number one. Really nice and easy little pot. I'm probably gonna pop it as close to back in that window spot as I can get it. But I'm gonna water it first because it could definitely use some water. I'm gonna get as much soil off of this. I have this potting mat here that my boyfriend Chris got me for Christmas. I think he was tired of getting dirt all over the floor, or me getting dirt all over the floor every time I did something like this inside. So yeah, it's definitely a handy tool to have if you do not have a repotting mat. I live here in Florida and it gets really toasty outside year round here. Like even right now I'm kind of dying in this sweater. Alrighty. But it's not really good weather to be potting outside in all year round. All right, so this is a little Hoya obovata splash variegated. One of the little Hoyas I got from a purge plant site. And I'm just teasing all this perlite here off the roots. This is the method that I currently prefer for propagating Hoya. I go ahead and pop it into a little container. This one was a little plastic pot. with a well of perlite at the bottom and then moss on top. I don't like propagating in moss by itself. It does get really dry really quickly. So it, is not great when you're just trying to keep it moist constantly. But the perlite well definitely seems to help that. And I don't have to worry about getting all the perlite off here because my mix does have some perlite in it that it'll be going into. So it's not a huge deal. But I'm just trying to get, the roots a little bit free here. It's going to be a little bit more difficult in the moss. The moss tends to, moss tends to get tangled up in the roots. But the moss you really do want to try to remove to the best of your ability, because the moss will hold moisture more than your potting mix will. And then you'll have uneven moisture distribution, which can cause root rot. It won't always, but it just could cause issues that I would like to avoid if possible. So I'm just kind of teasing as much here off the roots as I can. And the problem is that the moss blends in with the roots really well, so it's hard to know sometimes what's part of the root system and what's part of just the moss being tangled together. And this moss is pretty tangled. I mean, this guy was definitely overdue to be potted up, but I was kind of scared to do it. I'm not gonna lie. This is the first Hoya I'm actually potting for myself. So I've had, Hoyas before that I do repot or do a pot up, or that I do repot, but I've never repotted a propagation. So I don't know, I guess I was a little bit nervous because I don't want to lose this guy. He is super cute and was definitely on my wish list for a while. This moss is giving me so much grief. My goodness.
You just kind of massage a little bit though, like this, and it does kind of loosen up.
All right. And there we go. I think that's about as good as that is gonna get with all of those roots. They got really tangled up in that root system. Like I said, I probably should have repotted it earlier, but I was a little bit nervous and I did not want to make any mistakes. I think this pot might be a smidge too big. I was tempted actually to pot it back up in here and just pop a couple holes in the bottom. It's not a bad idea because I can still see the roots, and obviously this to here is, a pretty big jump. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be right back. I did just go ahead and pop some holes in the bottom of this little cup. Clear cups make great potting containers just because you can, like I said, still see the roots of whatever it is that you're potting up. So I want to keep an eye on the roots of this Hoya. I haven't gotten my Hoya watering schedule quite down. I know that, some Hoyas don't like to be watered super frequently, so I definitely don't want to overwater these guys. So it gives me a little bit of peace of mind too. There we go. That chunk of charcoal is very large. I usually use a very chunky potting mix, which most of my plants really seem to enjoy, but can definitely be a challenge when you have smaller pots. All right, maybe that was a little too much. Better, okay. And I usually make my own potting mix. I do reuse soil, like I said, that is not, you know, old or not going to be, you know, out of nutrients. Sorry, I'm getting kicked by this behind me right now. Oh, Luna, easy pup. And, you know, as long as soil is less than a year old, usually you are fine. So I do, you know, try not to be wasteful wherever I can. I do have, you know, other things that I mix in. Currently, I'm mixing in, you know, a good bit of perlite and some orchid bark. That way it has a little bit more fluffy aeration to it than, you know, store-bought soil would. And I think maybe a little bit more. There we go. All right, that little guy is all potted up. It looks really cute. This, like I said, was one of my wish list Hoya, so I'm very excited about that one. All right, and next I have this Hoya Chelsea, which is this big flat green leaf one right here, and this Hoya retusa, and they are actually in the same little propagation container. So I do want to be careful because I don't think the Hoya retusa has quite enough roots yet to pot up. Let me just check on them. I actually might be wrong. Hold on, let's see. Because we did pull up a good bit of moss here. No, I think they're still, oh, I don't know. No, we're still a little bit small to be potting up the retusa, but the Hoya Chelsea, I can see a good amount of roots on the outside of the pot, or on the outside of this little glass when I'm looking. So I know that she should be ready to go. And like I said, I'm trying to pot them up before it becomes too late to really separate the moss well. All right, so this is kind of a tedious process, but like I said, I want to make sure that I avoid having too much water on the roots, which can happen with the moss. Otherwise, you know, I might get root rot issues, and that would be obviously very sad because this is such a cute little Hoya and it has such a cute little root system. So I'm probably gonna pot it up actually in this pretty tiny pot, which I'm gonna have to keep an eye on. Again, you know, the smaller the pot that you have, the closer an eye that you really need to keep on the watering, because it will dry out a little bit faster. Even with such a small root system as these have, just doesn't hurt to be extra vigilant, very careful on that. I'm gonna nestle that little Hoya retusa back in there. Put some extra moss around it. And I have tried rooting Hoya in straight water. I know some people do have success with that route. I unfortunately did not have success with that route. The Hoya that I was rooting wasn't super healthy in the first place, so it could have been that, but it did brought out one of my cuttings, which was kind of sad because I was wanting to expand or to grow that pot up a little bit, because I had a few other of the same that I wanted to kind of put all together. This is looking good. And I'm just kind of picking out any pieces that are a little bit too large for a pot like this. This chunky mix works really, really well for most of my aeroids too. So I use it mostly for them. All right, so that guy is done. And like I said, I'm just gonna keep a really close eye on him, make sure that, you know, he stays moist, doesn't dry out too much. It should be just fine. I'm gonna pop him over here. Okay, so last on the list here is this Burl Marks Variegated. This is the one that had the longer roots to begin with, so probably is ready to be potted up. The other one, I'm still waiting on a little bit more roots in there, but this one I think should be good to go. I had this clothespin in there to hold up one of the stems that had broken in transit. that did eventually rot off, so, you know, but it did work in the time that I had it. All right. So this one was rooting in just perlite, which is usually my preferred method, as it does not cling to the roots quite as badly and less chance of root rot as well, because it's has a lot of aeration for those cuttings. And look at those roots, my goodness. Okay. All right. And this is why we use a potting mat, because I am making a total disaster of this. So this root, obviously nice and happy. These were both aerial roots when they started, but they will put out new root growth while you're potting, or while you're rooting them in, you know, perlite mix or water even, but they were looking good, so I wanted to go ahead and get them potted up. Okay. So I'm probably, I think, gonna have to use this pot for these, because they are, you know, a little bit bigger. Their root systems, I don't want to get, you know, coiled up in a pot this small. And we are kind of limited on pot choices at the moment. But I try to reuse my plastic nursery pots when I can. I have a bunch of them, and I have various sizes, and a lot of plants come already potted up, so I don't usually run out like I do with my terracotta pots. All right. And this soil that I have here is super dry. I haven't potted up anything in a little bit, so I'm probably going to need to soak these and do some bottom watering. Okay. Number one. I'm also trying to figure out which way these are growing. So I think this is going to be back. That way I can eventually put them up on a moss pole if I so choose. So I think this is going to be the back of that one. This is going to be the back of this one. Okay. All right. So I think that's about how they're going to set in there. Now I'm just trying to get all of the roots to cooperate. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fill. The bottom watering is what I do for really hydrophobic plants. So the ones that you may have either forgotten to water or that came in, you know, from the post really dry. Anything that's just not wanting to hold on to water, water's just flowing right through it. For whatever reason, I usually bottom water. That way the soil can actually soak up the moisture and hold on to that water that you're giving the plants. Otherwise they tend to dry out really fast and not hold on to any of it. Okay. So because like I said, the big root system in this plant already had a lot of those aerial roots that are very chunky and long. So it wouldn't have fit in a smaller pot. It probably would have fit in a taller pot, but I don't have one right now. So this was the best option, and I think it's gonna work out just fine. Yeah, so that's all potted up. Let's go ahead and move over to the sink, that way I can get these watered. All right, so here we are at my sink. I'm gonna go ahead and get these newly potted up guys watered. I do keep jugs of water that I leave out for at least 24 hours before I water. We do have pretty hard water here, but also the chlorine is just not good for the plants. The chlorine will tend to evaporate though if you do leave it sitting out. So that is what this is here. And if you see this bowl, this is kind of how I accomplish bottom watering and top watering at the same time. So the water is just flowing right through this soil because it is really dry. So I just water through and then I'm gonna let it sit. in this bowl for a little bit, which means I'm gonna need to find a couple other bowls because I do have a few other ones to get watered. All right, I think this will work for the rest of them. I'm gonna go ahead and just pop them in. This one is a little bit wilty. It's just not happy with that pot that it was in. Okay. Just making sure, because these have such small root systems that obviously are not established yet in these pots. I don't want the little cutting to fall out. All right, so I got to thinking, and I have a bunch of other plants that really need to be watered. So while those are waiting, I'm gonna go ahead and water these guys. This one I thought needed to be watered, but let me double check. My moisture meter is one of my most used tools. Whenever I don't know for sure that something needs to be watered, I just pop it in the soil. Yeah, it's telling me this is pretty dry. This is my Anthurium crystallinum. So I definitely don't want to overwater this one. I've only had it for a couple weeks now. And I actually have a new leaf that's popping out right here, and then another little growth point that's coming out at the bottom. So being very careful to try to give this one exactly what it wants. I always water until the water flows out the bottom. That's how you know that you have usually given the plant enough water, more than the soil can absorb. And you do want to reach that point with most of your plants. That way, you know, the soil is going to be adequately watered, adequately moistened for the plant to grow. Some plants, like I said, with the ones with the hydrophobic soil, the water will flow through too quickly. So that's when I just try to let them sit a little bit in that water. But these guys I all know have good soil that is watered regularly, so they shouldn't be hydrophobic and they shouldn't have that issue. And this is my Hoya pubicalyx splash, or publicalyx splash. Pubicalyx. I'm so bad at remembering how to say that one properly. I have a little tag here that reminds me when I forget. But it has a couple of new leaves coming in. There we go, you should be able to see that now. A couple of new leaves coming in. This whole tendril has kind of popped up in the past couple of weeks, and I am very happy that it's happy, but I'm gonna have to move it out of its spot soon, which worries me a little bit. My Ring of Fire actually has another whole growth point coming out of the base. Anyways, I thought I heard one of the dogs getting into something, but it has a whole new growth point coming out of the base. Right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's still pretty small, but there's a whole other growth point coming out. I don't know if that's normal for Ring of Fires, or if mine just got maybe a little bit damaged or stressed. I don't know. That actually, there's a whole other one coming out here too. Yeah, I don't know what this one is doing, but it seems happy, and as long as it's happy, I'm happy. But I wouldn't be upset if it decided to start putting out additional growth points and making a bushier Ring of Fire for me, for sure. And then this is the Jungle Boogie. It is the non-variegated version of the Ring of Fire. And it is actually one of my favorite plants. I know that it is, just plain green, not anything like super stunning or variegated or anything like that. But I really love the leaves and the like pinky green color that comes in, or that they come in as, and just the kind of the shape of them as well. I'm watching this one to make sure that it's gonna drain right. The soil has been probably a little bit too dry actually, but it has a whole new leaf coming in right here. And this one puts out new growth for me pretty regularly, so I don't usually worry about him that much. And the Jungle Boogie is one of those ones that is a little bit more compact with its growth, so it doesn't necessarily need a pole. In fact, a lot of people do not grow them on poles. However, you definitely can. And I'm thinking mine might need one because he is kind of getting a little lopsided on me. If he was standing up straight, he'd be more like this. So he might need a stake or a pole at some point in the future, just to kind of keep him on track. Right. And this is my Philodendron Green Beauty. And it is, the non-variegated version of the Florida Beauty. And actually, it's producing a lot of EFN, which is fine. I mean, it's totally normal with philodendrons, but it can also indicate that there could be pests. So I'm just giving this one a close check over. If you see the back of this leaf here, not sure how well you can see, but there's little dewdrops kind of on the underside of the leaf. And that's what I'm talking about when I say EFN. They're from the extra floral nectaries. And it can also be when the plant is overwatered, which this one is not. It's actually totally dry. So I'm just giving it a good look over, checking in between all of the lobes. This one was near the recent spider mite outbreak. And it looks clear, doesn't look like there's anything going on, but I still am gonna, I think, wash him off, just to be extra certain that everything is all good. So I'm moving these guys out of the way. Just make a mess every single time I do it. I think I'm one of those people that was born messy, honestly. Drives my boyfriend nuts because I do tend to make messes. And granted, I clean them, but especially with my plants, I do tend to make some messes. All right, so I think that's better. Yeah, I got most of that EFN off there. And again, it's totally normal, so it's not necessarily a cause for concern, but it can also attract pests. In nature, they would use it to kind of attract ants, actually. And ants are gonna come and get that EFN. So I, obviously don't have any ants here. They release it actually as a way to attract ants to control pests. Yeah, I obviously don't have any ants inside, so they don't need it either way, and it can burn the leaves if the sun is directly on that EFN. So no harm in washing it off. All right, you're all good. I also have my Hoya compacta over here. I do watch the leaves really carefully on this one because they can, because it's all wrinkly, it's hard to see, hard to do the taco test, kind of hard to see when the leaves are thirsty, but it can get wrinkly. So if you look at the leaves, you can kind of see where it gets all wrinkled. And that kind of lets me know that this plant is ready for some water. And yeah, it is totally dry, so it is good. I have a few new growth points actually on my compacta here, which I'm really excited about. I have seen a few people, one of my favorite YouTubers included, which is Becca de la Plants. She has a huge, long Actually, hers is variegated, Hoya compacta. And mine obviously is not that size, it's quite small, but I'm hoping one day that I'll have a really nice long trailing one like hers. So obviously it is a different day. We just got back from Universal, so it is nighttime, but I did get this in the mail today. This is another one of those packages that I don't know what's in it, but I'm really excited to open. So let's go ahead and see what is inside. Someone was very kind to send this to me. It was part of, I think, the same wish list post. I thought I caught myself for a second, but same wish list post as the other ones, but she was a little bit further north. So we were worried about the cold, obviously getting the plants, because that's when it would be fun to get some frozen plants to know. I'd be very sad. And I think she'd probably been pretty sad too. Oh, okay, cool. So this is actually a box or a bag of stratum. So I have never used stratum before. However, this person who, you know, I talked to for a little bit prior to them sending anything. So they actually use stratum for rooting Hoyas. I know I mentioned it probably earlier in this video that I've been using kind of like the layered method where I do, but I've been using the layered method where I do sphagnum moss on top and then perlite underneath. That way there's a little bit of a well. And that's, you know, been working pretty well for me. But she swears by stratum. So she was very kind and sent me a little bit of stratum in the box. Oh, okay. Things are already popping out. Oh my goodness. Okay, there is quite a few things in here. So I guess let's just open the first one. Ooh, I did cut myself. Let me go get a Band-Aid before I keep going here. Okay, so anyways, moving on, I did get a Band-Aid, managed to injure myself in the first 15 seconds of taking this, so we're doing great. Anyways, but she very kindly sent me some cuttings, and it looks like she sent me, honestly, a whole bunch, and I'm very excited. I think that's very, very kind. So I think this tag was supposed to be for this one. This is a little 2-leaf cutting. I think this is a Hoya Sunrise, from what the tag says. And from, you know, my experience, well, my experience being I've seen them online, they sun stress really beautifully, which is why they're called a Hoya Sunrise. They get that really pretty red. So I think that's what this one is. So that's number one. This one I'm really excited about too. This one with its, I don't know if you can see the venation there. I hope you can because it's quite pretty. There we go. This is a Hoya fungi. Fungi? I hope I'm saying that right. Fungi. So that is super cute. I love the leaves that have that like veining that almost looks like fishtails kind of on them. I just think that's really gorgeous. Let me see here. Oh, there's another loose tag. Okay. Okay, so this one is splashy. So I assume it's this one. Hoya sigillatus? Sigillatus? I think it's this one. But it has, there we go, focus, not on my face, on there we go. There's really, really pretty red leaves with splashing on them, which is really unique. So for anyone who doesn't know, Hoya are not totally unique in this, but when it comes to bright lighting, they get what's called sun stressed. So they get a lot of red in their leaves, and their leaves can go from being green to being almost entirely red. It is something that's really cool and really unique about Hoya, and why a lot of people collect some of the, you know, more common shades of Hoya just to kind of sun stress them to see what they do, like the sunrise. This one I'm also not familiar with. This is a Numerarides, I think is how you say that. Has super soft leaves, really cute looking little cutting too. And this one obviously, again, has that sun stressing on it with that little bit of red. That is also super cute. This one I think I know, Hoya shepherdii. Okay, yeah, this one was right. This one's a Hoya shepherdii. And you can see it has those long green leaves, which the shepherdii is known for. Wow, that's super cute. I've seen some really beautiful trailing shepherdii online. You know, some of my favorite YouTubers. I think I've mentioned them before, but they have some really pretty ones. Hoya CV Nuna. Okay. This one already has like little aerial roots going on it. I've never heard of some of these, honestly. So I'm very excited. The little Nuna leaf, I don't know, it looks pretty cute. Like, this is so generous. I was like thinking maybe one, and she sent there's multiple packets in here, guys. Oh my goodness. I am going to have to profusely thank her. This is so kind. This one has a peduncle. She sent me, oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. Okay, so this one, I'm trying to get these out one at a time. I think this one actually might be rooted because she did wrap it up, or maybe not. I don't know. We'll see in a second. I'm trying to. Oh wait, those are tethered together. Okay, so these are together. These are the ones that have the peduncles. Oh my goodness. So these ones that have the striping, the ones in the front with the peduncles on them. Those peduncles are those blooms. These are the Dischidia ovata. Okay, so this is a slightly different genus than the Hoya. However, Dischidia is very closely related, so care is very similar. But that is super cute. I have one Dischidia in my collection. If you watched my houseplant tour video, it is my Dischidia ruscifolia. It's the one that has all the little heart-shaped leaves, the million hearts. So I'm fairly confident in my ability to keep that alive, I hope. And then next to it is a Hoya Crimson Princess. Okay, that's really exciting too, because I do not have a Crimson Princess in my collection, if you can see there. So the Crimson Princess and the Crimson Queen are commonly confused. To my understanding, the Crimson Princess has the inner variegation, Queen has the outer variegation. So there's just a little difference there, but they're both obviously quite beautiful. And I also hear they sun stress really well too. So this one, okay, so here's actually the Queen, so I can hold them up for comparison. So this is a cutting of the Crimson Queen, and this is a cutting of the Crimson Princess. If I would like to focus on it, yes, there we go. So side by side, you can see how the variegation differs between them. Both really beautiful, both can become very nice trailing plants. And you know, I've seen some really gorgeous ones out there. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this one is stuck on here. And there it goes. Okay, so this is Hoya Mathilde. Oh my goodness. And this also has a peduncle on there, which is really cool, to me at least. Pardon me. I have never had a Hoya bloom for me, so I don't have any experience with peduncles. I was kind of wondering if one of my plants was maybe putting one off. Now seeing this one on this little Mathilde splash here, which if you guys can see those cute little leaves, they're so adorable. This like little stem up a little bit higher. There we go, that little stem right there that you guys are seeing, that is the peduncle. So that's where the flowers come out of. And if you don't know, you should never pluck or cut or anything a flower stem or peduncle off of a Hoya, because they will continue to bloom from that peduncle, which is why I'm so excited, because like I said, I've never had one that produced a peduncle for me so far. So that's really cool. I'm actually super excited about that. I did receive a really, really kind Hoya Mathilde as well. So now I'll have a little bit of a fuller pot. I think she gave me 2 cuttings of that one. So I'll have 3 little cuttings in there and they'll be super happy. All right, here is the other package, I think. Yeah, okay, this is the other one. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this looks a little thirsty, so it may, yeah, a little bit more, what am I trying to say there? A little bit more fragile is the word I was looking for, leaves. So this is a Hoya Iris Marie. Okay, so I haven't heard of this one either, and it looks like she also wrapped this one, so I'm thinking it might have some roots. I'm not sure, but I've never heard of this one either. It looks super cute. I love the color of those leaves. I think that Hoya are just really interesting. I mean, obviously, if you look at a plant species like Philodendron, for example, there are so many different types of philodendrons, so much variation, and the leaves and the colors of the leaves and the shapes of the leaves and how they grow. I mean, are they a creeper? Are they a climber? Like what is their growth pattern? You know, things like that. But I don't know, just the entire genus of Hoya, you can't even tell some of them are related, because the stem on this one obviously is a good deal thinner than, say, like the Crimson Princess or the Crimson Queen. You would know that they were in the same family unless you know. And I just think that's so cool how unique and different that they can be. And this one, okay, this is really cool too. So this is a Hoya australis. So this is the non-variegated form of the Hoya australis Lisa, if anyone is familiar with that one. And that is super cool too. I've seen some really beautiful baskets of this one as well. So I'm really hopeful that this one will, you know, produce a really beautiful bushy plant for me one day. So that is just so kind. Oh my goodness. That is like, I love the plant community for this reason. And this just, everyone is very kind, very welcoming. I mean, you know, people could hoard plants. They could say, no, I'm not going to share with anyone. This is my plant. No one can have any. But instead of doing that, you know, people are willing to share and send such a generous thing to a complete stranger that they've never met just because they share a common love of plants. And I love that. I think that is honestly one of the best things about the plant community, and one of my favorite things about it too. It's just that people are very kind and welcoming, and I think that's really awesome. And this was the last thing in the package. She included these little glasses that I could propagate in, which I am really grateful for. A lot actually, because I am rapidly running out of propagation vessels, because I keep on, you know, trimming and clipping and, you know, making more plants, because I'm trying to have a fuller plant, you know, collection. Just like little ones like the Dischidia ruscifolia that I have, you know, I have little cuttings of that one. And yeah, I'm running out of propagation vessels. So that was very kind and very thoughtful of her to do, especially, you know, when I now have so many that I have to propagate, which I'm excited about. That's not a problem, but I mean, this is a good thing to have with that. So yeah, that's it for this segment of this video. I am gonna go take care of all of these babies, and I'm going to, I guess, put them in some of the stratum. I'm very optimistic about it. Like I said, she was speaking very highly about the stratum, so I'm hopeful that I'll have some success, because some of these are really cool. I mean, I've never even heard of these, so fingers crossed. Everybody say a quick prayer for me that this goes well and that I don't lose any of these, because I will be heartbroken. And yeah, I'm sure there's probably more to this video, so we'll shift to that footage, but thank you so much for watching this portion. And I have to also go send a thank you message. Hey guys, so it is another day, and I popped into Walmart for a couple of things that ended up with me buying this pot among a few others. This one though is specifically going to be for my Gloriosum. My Gloriosum is a crawler, so it does need a little bit more space. And right now it is in this pot. There we go, now y'all can see. So not super ideal. It is pretty deep, so I'm hoping that the root system does not go all the way down. But I think this pot right here will give it a little bit more space to kind of spread out a little bit and crawl. That way it shouldn't need a repot for a little while, hopefully anyways. So let's go ahead. Usually when I'm repotting a plant, I will see kind of how I feel about the dirt or the soil that it's planted in. And if it's not, you know, old, broken down, and you know it's doing all right, I'm not going to replace, you know, all of the soil. And I actually think I already see some roots at the bottom that may or may not end up in my favor. But I try not to, you know, waste any soil as much as I can. You know, even if I have to use it outside, like some of my outdoors plants, I will end up doing that. Trying to tease this one out here. There we go. Okay. All right. So it actually has a pretty nice root system. If I hold up here, you can see. And that's why we have a potting mat. Okay, but you can see this root ball. It's not super, you know, compact, so I think it should be able to be spread across the pot here, so it's not going to be an issue as far as the depth is concerned. All right. I'm gonna reuse some of that soil. Like I said, as long as it's perfectly fine, like it's not broken down. This actually has a lot of really great additives in it. The person I bought this from, it was actually from their personal collection. So it was from somebody who, you know, intended to keep this plant for a little while. And I find in that case, you know, the quality of the soil isn't gonna be, you know, something that they just throw in there to root a plant up and sell it. They're actually, you know, going to put good soil in there with the intent of nurturing this plant for a little while. So that looks good. These roots are actually super nice. I'm really happy to see those. If I can get that to stand up for a minute. Nope. Oh, I guess I'm going to use my hands. I end up doing that more often than not when I'm repotting. I have, you know, a shovel and like a little spade and all that kind of stuff for gardening. But for whatever reason, when I'm repotting houseplants, I always seem to end up using my hands. So that is what I'm doing. Nothing wrong with it. I probably could use a soil scoop, but I'm not all that fussed, honestly, about having dirty hands. You know, I'll just wash them when I'm done, so it's not a huge deal. And if you can hear a little bit of woofing, that is the corgi. He has decided to make his input known too. But if I drop any soil on the ground, leave it alone, please. Just gonna pour a little bit in there, kind of spread it around a little bit. I am actually really excited to have this plant. You know, this is my first crawler, I think I mentioned before, and it's just really beautiful. I really quite like the leaves, and it is the zebra form. And for anyone not familiar, the zebra form has more prominent veining on it, as well as longer veining. So the veining actually goes typically towards the edge of the leaf a little bit more than a typical gloriosum would. In this case, you know, that's not something that I was, you know, looking for specifically. It's not anything that I was super, you know, into. I just really wanted the gloriosum, and I do love the zebras. I think they're gorgeous, but I don't think it's, you know, that huge of a deal. There's kind of difficult to tell the difference a lot of the time. I have also read though that if you give them more light, the veining will become more prominent regardless of the type of gloriosum. So this one I'm actually going to be changing the location of. Right now it's been sitting, you know, over here, obviously, on my little plant shelf with a bunch of my other little guys. But I think with this repotting, he's going to end up being a little large for that location. And honestly, you know, with the spreading out that I'm thinking this plant's going to do, might be not a great location for him permanently. So this is where we're at. Got him potted up. I actually really love this green pot. I think it's quite pretty. But yeah, I think that'll be nice. And I'll give him a little bit of a water too when we're done. And you can see right here, this is a little growth point, has been popping out since I got him. I think, honestly, any amount of stress on the plant, you know, shipping, lack of water, repotting, really any of those things is liable to make the plants stop growing as quickly as it once was. So I shipped it, got it in, put it, you know, one location, and now I've repotted it. So I have a feeling that countdown is going to resume once more, and it's going to take a little bit longer to get new growth out of this guy, but I'd rather him be happy. I'm going to go ahead and pop him over here. But I'd rather him be happy in the long run, so it's fine. It'll be all right. All right, so this one, I believe this is a red. Oh, it says Prince of Orange. This is not a Prince of Orange. At least it does not look like my Prince of Orange. I was thinking more like a Congo, which I'm not super familiar with, so correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, this is Prince of Orange too, so I don't know about that. If it is, but my Prince of Orange right now has a lot more red in the leaves and less of like this burgundy look. I was at Walmart earlier, like I said, and this guy was on the clearance shelf, which I cannot seem to stay away from. All right. And he's in the best looking one of the lot, really. There were some that were looking a little beat up. This one has obviously some damage. It's not perfect by any means, but it was doing better than some of the other ones I saw. However, it is really wet, so I don't know if it's been overwatered or what, but there's that. And also it's really floppy, which does not give me hopeful vibes. So yeah, this is the root system, and this is the pot that it was in. So yeah, that's gonna have to go somewhere else. I was gonna repot it back in that pot, but I guess not. Last time I got one of these, I got it from Costa Farms, and the root system was inadequate to begin with, and on top of that, it was in those little like dissolvable compostable soil pods, which was not doing any favors. It was definitely hindering the plant. So I'm taking off as much of this soil as I can. Actually, the soil doesn't look bad. It's just soaked. So I might mix it maybe with a little bit of dry soil just so it's not quite so damp. And I'm just pulling these little caterpillars off the bottom, or I guess these little, actually maybe they might be leaves, the little remains of the leaves off the bottom. It has lots of little aerials in it actually, but this plant could turn out to be quite cute. I just wish they didn't pot them like this. Is this rotten? No, that feels okay. Okay. So let me see, I actually just got some new pots, and I guess I'm gonna pot that in one of those because this is far too big. I swear I can never keep these. These always somehow manage, like I just bought 5 and I'm immediately using 1. These things just, they get used so quickly. So I'm gonna just, I guess, mix some soil in here. Like I said, the soil isn't bad. You know, I don't see any fungus gnats or anything. Nothing really wrong with the roots other than just they're very wet and small. So no point in my personal opinion of not reusing some of that soil. The rest I'll probably toss into one of my little outdoors plants because they will appreciate the top off for sure. Okay, so yeah, these look all right. I'm always worried when buying from, you know, a box store that overwatering might be a little bit of an issue. Because obviously, you know, they're watering more on a schedule or more on a daily basis than they would be at like maybe a plant specific store where they know, hey, you know, these plants should only be watered when they're dry. With these, I have a feeling they're watered a little bit more than they might need. I also cannot resist picking up a cute little plant. And sometimes it's hard because like this is a decent sized plant. I mean, obviously it's not huge by any means, but it's decent size. So it's kind of tempting to pot it up in a larger pot, which I, you know, have seen people do, but in this case, I think that would definitely have been a mistake. I mean, you guys saw how small that root system was. So keeping it in this pot with all of that really dense, wet soil would probably not have done any favors. But this is it now. So I did go ahead and get it potted up. I think it looks super cute, honestly. I'm probably gonna put this, I don't know, maybe outside the greenhouse. I don't really need another one indoors right now, and they do like a little bit of sun to get that, you know, bright red color, but yeah, that'll be really adorable. And I might end up giving it as a gift or something. I don't know, we'll see. All right, so that is about it for, I think, this video. I think I'm probably gonna sign off here. I do have another video planned next week that I was gonna film today, but I think repotting just kind of rounded out what I had. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and that everyone like this video. If you did, please go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to see you around here a little bit more. Have a great day. Bye.